And it's the final day of the APEC summit there in Hawaii, in Honolulu. For more insight into the roles of the countries attending the APEC summit, we can now cross live to the CEO of Country Risk Solutions, Daniel Wagner. Thank you very much, Mr. Wagner, for being with us there in the US. Let's talk about China, obviously a significant member there of APEC. Currently looking like the country that's really shoring up the world economy at the moment by holding so much US debt. Do you think there's already been a major shift in global economic power?
It seems pretty clear with each passing APEC event and other events on the global stage that China is really in the driver's seat in many respects. And this is coming at an awkward time for the United States because the United States is clearly a declining power at the same time and is having trouble adjusting to what that means. At the same time, China is having a bit of a challenge adjusting to what it means to be a truly global player. And it has in the past not really lived up to some of the expectations of some other of the world powers, and it is finding its own footing in that regard.
Of course, when we talk about China, we shouldn't discount the likes of the other BRICS countries, Brazil and Russia. They're getting a much larger voice now in the running of the world economy, aren't they?
They are, and they're also suffering the same sort of dilemma, and that is how best to exercise their growing power. You know, Brazil, for example, has gotten into some trouble when it's tried to intervene in some global affairs. For instance, trying to help broker a deal between France and some other powers in the region. I think what we're seeing is a real paradigm shift now, whether it's with one of the BRIC countries or with Indonesia, with South Africa, with some of the lesser-known emerging global powers. They're all having a difficult time deciding exactly how they should enter the world stage, what role they can play there, and how they can have the most impact.
It's interesting, though, that many eyes from the West have turned east towards China, saying, give us some help, please, during this euro crisis. Many observers believe that China would have actually stepped in and saved the euro, but seeming a little reluctant, China, at the moment, isn't it?
Well, you know, it seems to me that the Chinese are actually being really smart. Their foreign minister and their finance minister are basically said in the recent past, look, we don't want to do what you all are doing, which is basically throwing good money after bad. Why should we do that? You need to give us a good reason why we should throw you a lifeline. They realize that they have a great opportunity here to do so, and at the same time, they don't really want to do so if they're simply going to be throwing their money away. So I think they're being very cautious and very sensible in taking their time before they react.
What about the pressures on the dollar at the moment? A lot of talk over the last year or so about the dollar being ditched as the international currency. We talked a little earlier about the pressures on the US trying to maintain its significant position there in the world economy.
Yeah, indeed. This is another interesting facet of the whole emerging new world, as it were. There really isn't anything that can replace the dollar right now, and I think everybody knows that. The yuan is not fully convertible on the capital and the current account. Certainly the euro doesn't look like it's in any position to take the lead. I mean, what currency would take the lead at this point? So I think in due course there will be an emerging shift, and my guess is that the yuan will ultimately take the helm. But before that happens, it's probably another 5 or 10 years, and the Chinese are going to have to do a lot more to ensure that there's a great degree of confidence in the yuan going forward.
What about you, with your eye on business there in the region, the APEC region, the Asian and Pacific region? You're there in the States. This idea of this landmark free trade zone, just how much could that affect and indeed impact the economy in a positive way? I mean, we know that area, of course, is doing a lot better than what's going on in the West at the moment, but just how significant is this supposed landmark free trade zone idea?
Well, if it worked, it would be very significant. But, you know, it's sort of like trying to get 22 people together to dance. It's very difficult to make it happen. And when you're talking about trying to do that at this time in that particular area of the world where everyone is becoming more nationalistic economically, and they're less flexible, they're having less interest in making bold steps, it's nice to talk about it, and probably half the countries at the table will ultimately participate. I understand Japan has just expressed a willingness to join the crowd, but China hasn't expressed a willingness to join it. And even if everyone said today that they wanted to do so, it would take years in order to make it work. And the problem, of course, is that everybody needs it to work right now.
Daniel, it's great to get your insight onto this. Thank you very much indeed. CEO of Country Risk Solutions, joining us live there in the States. Daniel Wagner, thank you.
Thank you.